Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United transfer news as Manchester United look to make a double swoop for the likes of Martinez and also Lemens, also Hjulmand. We've also got updates on Stiller, not Ben Stiller from Something About Mary. Lots to get into on the show this morning. Hope you're all doing well and welcome to the United Stand for your latest Manchester United news and transfer news. And interestingly, I want to start off talking about Costa actually, because Pletigol has put a very interesting story out overnight about Diogo Costa, the Porto goalkeeper, who's available for £20 million. Accordingly, Galatasaray are going to move for him if they don't get Edison. Just go and do this deal. But we've also got an update from a very good source from Argentina talking about Martinez. We've also got six alternatives for Belabor, and we've also got the latest on Morten Hjulmand of Sporting, who could well be a target for Man United in the next couple of weeks. Now, if you didn't see the show last night, then you won't really know that 20 minutes in, we gave an update from our source, which we've had quite a bit of information from over the last 6 months, that all this scaremongering coming out about Man United's window being closed and they're not looking for a goalkeeper, they're not looking for a midfielder. We're not following that negative path. We're following the path that United are desperately trying to do business in the next 2 weeks. They just don't know what business that's going to be. So yet again, there are stories that we'll cover this morning that are going to follow that line. I think the Athletic, again, talking about United, probably, maybe, unlikely to do deals. That's not what we're getting. Let's see what happens. Obviously, there's 2 weeks left in the window. I'm not going to sit here and guarantee that we're going to make signings, but I'm certainly not going to sit here and go, oh no, what we're going to do? We're not going to do any deals. How will we survive? We want to do 2 deals. Amorim wants to do 2 deals. And obviously, there are deals that can be done. And I think the first place I want to start off with is at Gaston Edel on X, Gaston Edel. So basically what he has been quoted as saying in the last few hours is that on relation to Martinez to Manchester United, the deal was very close. The coaching staff, especially Amorim, wanted him, and Martinez knew that Amorim wanted him. Amorim could not convince the United board that it was important to spend on a good goalkeeper. So this is, sorry, let me just get this correct because I get his name right. Gaston Edel, who has like over 1 million followers on X and is, as some of you will know, he is the guy when it comes to Argentinian internationals, transfers, news. He always gets the information on it. So what he is basically saying is, in relation to Martinez, there was a deal that was close. Obviously, we know we approached Aston Villa around a loan deal. He's saying that the deal was close. Coaching staff, Amorim wanted him, but it's the board that have said they don't want to spend on a goalkeeper. Now, this is very encouraging for us as fans because it shows what we reported in March as an exclusive was that Amorim had decided he wanted a new goalkeeper. Wilcox agreed with him. So we've known since March that Amorim wants a new goalkeeper. But what you have here is again, dedicated proof that Ruben Amorim wants a goalkeeper and a dedicated proof that it's the board that aren't willing to spend on it. So you sort of look at it and you go, well, there's a cracking story coming about Costa as well. The big thing that everybody needs to get their head around in this summer transfer window is that it's not a window where in the past we'd go, well, we've got money, but there's no value in the market. There's nobody there. And sometimes you would look at it and go, we need a striker, but where would you go? Nobody wants, a load of crap up front. In every area of the pitch, I mean, we're going to talk about 6 alternatives to Belabor that Man United could do for about 50 million quid or under in a moment, and we have been linked to the Sevilla one again this morning. But the reality is, in every single position, there is people that will make us better. And in goal, to be honest, there's probably about 100 goalkeepers that would make us better, but there's some really good options. So Martinez clearly wanted to come to Man United. Amorim really wanted Martinez. We've made the approach, and United have basically said they're not going to spend the money. That is shocking, but what I would say is those sort of stories, to me, I see them as a positive because there's still 2 weeks in the window. I think Villa against Brentford on Saturday afternoon is huge. The goalkeeper that played instead of Emi Martinez kept a clean sheet and had a good game. Will Emery bring Emi Martinez back? If he does, forget about it. If he doesn't, does it just start to open up the door for a deal? And maybe, in fairness to Manchester United, and this has always been our conspiracy theory, maybe the price that Aston Villa want for Emi Martinez is too high. And maybe Man United are thinking, let's have a look in the last 2 weeks. Maybe, because let's be honest, Onana didn't start on Sunday. So look, maybe I'm putting 2 and 2 together and I'm getting 5, but Onana not starting against Arsenal, Emi Martinez, a player that we want. Will he play on Saturday? Could the price become more reasonable? Look, I'm hoping, because we do need a goalkeeper, and I'd be over the moon with a goal. I mean, one thing about Emi Martinez, he ain't palming that ball in his bloody goal, is he? Absolutely not. So keep an eye on that. Emi Martinez is a 1-game ban, Matthew. That has been confirmed now. Now, the second goalkeeper story that is very, very interesting this morning, and it comes in from Pletigol, and we do have a bit of an update from Romano on this as well, but it got me very excited last night. So exclusive from Florian Plettenberg out there in Germany. He's saying Galatasaray have submitted an official offer for Costa worth 20 million euros plus add-ons. The priority for Galatasaray is Edison. However, an agreement with Man City is not in sight. Therefore, Galatasaray are exploring alternatives, and Costa is the top option if Edison fails. An offer has now been submitted. Now, let's not run away with ourselves. That doesn't mean that Man United are in for Costa. But what that does do yet again is make me go, why are we not in for Costa? And also, even if that was doubled, even if it was 40 million euros plus add-ons, that's still a very achievable price for Manchester United for one of the best goalkeepers available at the moment. Like the goalkeeping market right here, right now, what would your dream be? Okay, Donnarumma. It's not going to happen. So, yeah, look, Alisson's at Liverpool, Reyes at Arsenal, Courtois at Real Madrid. The great goalkeeper market's not really accessible. So you're looking at the goalkeepers that are going to be the best goalkeepers tomorrow. And I think with Costa and Emi Martinez for the now, there are options there. So I just think that Fabrizio Romano said, Porto don't want to sell. Porto, there's no deal with Galatasaray. But I also think there's no smoke without fire. And clearly, there is a deal that could be done with somebody like Costa. There is a deal that can be done with somebody like Emi Martinez. And I think, as I said last night, I think I'm not going to say we've been proved right. I'm not going to say that. I think that's a step too far. But as I said last night, there was a lot of stuff coming out about how Manchester United are unlikely to sign a goalkeeper and Manchester United are unlikely to sign a midfielder. And that's not what I was told yesterday afternoon. What I was told yesterday afternoon from this really good source is that Ruben Amorim wants a goalkeeper, wants a midfielder. It's well known in the club. I believe, and this is speculation, that the club want to back Ruben Amorim because they don't want to sack Ruben Amorim. And what they will have hopefully figured out is that if we start losing games with frequency and we start hanging around 10th place, the pressure will be there. I mean, you saw the article from the Manchester Evening News on Sunday after the game. The player ratings were like we'd lost 3-0. So they're ready. The knives are sharpened. And the media can manipulate parts of our fan base. And when that fan base starts saying Amorim out, you won't get them back. So if Sir Jim wants patience and he wants time and he wants people to back his manager, he has to back his manager. There's no point saying to a fan base, please, end of the day, don't be Amorim out. You can't sit and tell an intelligent fan base, don't be Amorim out, back your manager, when the fan base can say, well, you didn't. And that's the big thing, isn't it? They want Amorim to be here for the next 3 to 5 years because that's cheaper for them. They can build a project and they want success. But it's going to take time. It will take time. And if you want a fan base to be patient, and if you want a fan base to back your manager, then they need to see a board that's backing him. Because subconsciously, if we go into this season and we know he wanted a midfielder and a goalkeeper and they didn't give it him, subconsciously, I'm thinking, why? Now, intelligent people would say because we've got tight owners who are business related, business orientated, but you might also go, maybe they don't fancy him either. Maybe they don't want to spend the money on him. And then it becomes a problem. So I think with regards to Manchester United, they've got to get the checkbook out in the next 2 weeks. And I still expect it to happen. I think there's a lot of doom and gloom over the last 24 hours. And I understand that. These journalists are literally journalists. They're not Man United fans. They're paid by a bloody media outlet. That's how they earn their money. It's not, they're not free and independent. They're paid by people and they're paid to write certain stories. I get that. But we're not. We can come at it from a fan point of view. And obviously, I could sit here and be really negative and say, oh, I think that's the end of the world, no more signings. But it's not what we're being told. And there are some good deals to be done. I think we're going to see some really good deals in the last 2 weeks of the window. Crystal Palace are going to sell 2 players. Eze and Guehi are going to go. Isak's going to end up at Liverpool. Man City might get Rodrigo. Who knows what Aston Villa, Newcastle and everything. There's going to be a lot of deals in the next 2 weeks. You're telling me Man United are going to sit there and go, we've had a promising start to the season, but we lost. How do we turn that promise into wins and 5th place? Well, you get a goalkeeper and you get a midfielder and you go for it. I mean, is this not the summer of going for it? Like, literally, I've never known a top 4, all of them go, let's bloody go for it. Let's spend hundreds of millions of pounds. And United, we've got to do that as well. Now, just to bring you some of the negative stuff, this is coming in from Laurie Whitwell and The Athletic again. United will carefully weigh up whether to spend more money at a time when they need to make sales. Making a move for a midfielder is not guaranteed. Also goes on to say, as matters stand, pursuing a new number 1 goalkeeper is not on the cards. So look, we're here for fair opinion, and I think fair opinion always has to be balanced. Absolutely, you can be looking at that this morning, as I said last night, and you can be going doom and gloom. It's over. No, we're not pursuing a number 1 goalkeeper, and it's not guaranteed that Man United will get a midfielder. But as I said, I disagree. From what I was told yesterday, I trust that person. We are still pushing on all fronts to get those players in. Who those players will be, whether it happens, it's not going to take long for us to find out. And with every passing hour now, not day, every passing hour, we're running out of time. But the options are there. I think if there's 2 weeks left, you need a midfielder, and there's nothing there, you're sort of like going, where are we going to pull this from? There are so many people out there, which brings me on to the midfield. I am going to get into some of your comments, and there's a few other things I need to talk about, but really interesting updates there on Emi Martinez and also on Costa. Keep your face on that. I am going to talk about Hjulmand because that's more of our own thing to talk about, but I just want to talk about what's this? Man United are reportedly set for internal discussions over whether to move for another 6 before the September 1 deadline. The club have opted to wait at least another year before making a push for Baleba, though there's a strong admiration for Hjulmand, who previously worked under Amorim. Wharton is also under consideration, but any move would need to be balanced against United's priority of raising funds through player sales. Baleba was seen as an opportunity, and a new midfielder is not guaranteed. Look, I think that story, whether we like it or not, has to be acknowledged. There seems to be I think I don't know about you. I don't know whether, some of you might tell me, no, I still don't understand it, Mark. I'm starting to understand the Baleba mess or story or whatever you want to call it, that 2 weeks of Ornstein saying we're in for him and we all thought we were going to get him and then we walk away. I think it was a punt. I don't know whether anybody watches the NFL, but sometimes the clock's running down, you're in your own half, the seconds are dropping down, and you just chuck the ball as far as you can and hope. They call it a Hail Mary, and you hope that someone's going to catch it and maybe get a touchdown or something. And the chances of it happening are slim. And I think Manchester United on Baleba, unfortunately, publicised it that we were going to get him, because I think everybody had a right to think we were going to get him, when actually it was just a punt. And clearly, more detail coming out this morning that the price that Brighton were looking at was 110. Man United offered half of that. So I think that you know, I don't even know what that means. I really don't know what that means. I mean, what does it mean that they're going to wait a year? His price is going to go up. Like, with something that's going to go up in value, you buy it. Like, it's like a house. If a house is £1 million and you go, I can only afford 600,000, we'll try again next year. But the market would suggest that the house is going to get stronger because it's in a nice area. It's going to go up in value. So I don't know what United's point is on that, but the discussion for alternatives, why are we having discussions about alternatives on the 19th of August or the 18th of August, because my overlay didn't work. It's the 19th. We've not gone back in time. Why we're having that conversation, I don't know that I believe everything that that comes out, really, because I think that sometimes, I think that there has to be, these outlets have to write, 10 articles a day, and sometimes you've got to create a story from pure opinion, I suppose. I mean, we do it on the United stand when the transfer window's closed. You would talk about the midfield, you talk about right back. So, opinion, there's nothing wrong with it. But I think it does Man United a discredit to say that we're going to sit and have a meeting, less than 2 weeks before the end of the window about signing a number 6. That's like having a meeting about your building falling down tomorrow. The building's falling down today. So I think United will have alternatives. And it's about whether they want to go for them. I mean, remember, we have loaned Collier, so we've weakened our midfield roster to 4, one of which is Bruno Fernandes, who I don't think is a midfielder anyway. So I think we will go for a midfielder. Who it's going to be is going to be very interesting. I saw a story this morning, actually, about Angelo Stiller, plays for Stuttgart, midfielder, about £35 million. So, I mean, whether that turns into anything or not, I haven't seen a massive amount of him, but let's be clear. I've said this a few times now. The Bundesliga has become the league for the Premier League now. I wouldn't say it's a feeder league, but you look at the volume of players that are coming in from there. I think in the past, maybe people thought Bundesliga, there's some good players there, but some have flopped in the past. I think there's a lot of people being brought in there. I mean, even Sunderland bringing Xhaka back from there, of course, but the big ones like Ekitike, Šeško, there's a lot of players, Wirtz, Frimpong. He's apparently a good midfielder, but can we have Ben Stiller instead? He is funny. He would bring a bit of comedy to the midfield, but I think that it's people are talking about him being injured at the moment and doing his ACL. So I don't know. I don't know about that. I'm just reacting to news on the news show here. So that's an interesting one. But look, I mean, even I looked at this before I talked to you about the news on Hjulmand. I was looking at this article on Football Fancast the other day, and if I can get it to even they listed up 6 people. Now, I'm not saying we're in for them, but Stiller was one of them. You've also got why have they not listed them now? So maybe I'm on the wrong article here. I've got it here. Let me just go to it because I know I've got it. Bear with. Did I drop it into there? Oh my God. I think this laptop is on its last legs. I really do. Oh God, absolute shit. What's wrong with it today? Right, I'm going to give it one last go, and then I'm just going to talk about Hjulmand, or I'm going to have to try and remember it. Definitely on its last legs. There it is. So 6 alternatives to belabor. This was on the. No, it wasn't. It wasn't on Football Fancast. It was on TBR Football. So 6 alternatives here. Obviously, Hjulmand we're going to talk about in a moment. Stiller we've spoken about at Stuttgart. Guerra at Valencia. There is a lad at Bilbao who I can never pronounce his name. Mikel Yaragiza, and also Kamara, who many of you mentioned before at Monaco. and Agoumé at Sevilla. So, I mean, I'm not taking credit for that. I'm not being a hipster, but there's like 6 midfielders there. And I'm not saying that every single one of those is a good alternative, but there's 6 other alternatives that aren't going to cost you 115 million. In fact, you'll probably get all of those for under 50 million, definitely under 50, you know, maybe even 40 million. So there are alternatives out there, and you have to move for alternatives, because I don't buy the bullshit that we went for Baleba, we couldn't get him, and we'll go next year. I mean, I find that I don't want to use the word moron because it is offensive to thick people, but I can't believe that there are United fans who actually are going, well, we'll just go for Baleba next summer. It's like, it must be great being the head of PR at Man United when you can say, yeah, we didn't get Baleba, but we'll go for him next summer. Yeah, because as I said a few minutes ago, he's definitely going to be cheaper, isn't he? He's going to cost the same, and you're going to end up blowing your whole budget on a player that I don't. Even if we buy Baleba next summer, I'm sort of sat here going, why am I meant to be happy about that? So Brighton want 100 million. They're still going to want 100 million next year. We need a midfielder now. And what you're telling me is you're going to blow all the budget next year on a player we needed now. I'm meant to get excited about that, because next summer we'll need 2 or 3 other positions, and you're going to blow our priority position this summer, next summer's budget on it. So I think we've got to move now. Now, the interesting thing, just to bring it back to Hjulmand a minute, and then I'm going to go through some other bits in your comments, but bringing it back to Hjulmand for a moment, the general stance from, well, I haven't heard David Ornstein say anything about it, but the general stance coming out from Fabrizio is that this would be a very difficult deal to do. But I don't get worried about that, because it's not like if I put out there that United are in for Kamara at Monaco, and then someone asks Fabrizio, do you agree with Goldbridge? And he goes, yeah. And it's such an easy deal to do. You know, it's just easy. Like, any deal is going to be really difficult now with how long is left in the window. So I don't really panic about, oh, it's, you know, it's going to be a difficult deal to do. Wharton would be a very difficult deal to do. Hjulmand will be a very difficult deal to do. They're all going to be very difficult deals to do, because everybody's season starts, or has started, or starts this weekend. I think the Bundesliga starts this weekend. I think the Italian league, La Liga as well, has already started. So every deal is going to be difficult for everybody. You know, Newcastle getting Wizza with 2 weeks to go. They'll get him, but it's not easy because Brentford wants a replacement. He's at, you know, all these deals are difficult. Boo bloody who, cry me a river. I don't care about difficult. What I care about is money. Any deal's difficult when you don't have the money. If you've got 115 million pounds, Baleba's a really easy deal to do. If you've got 30 million pounds, Emi Martinez is a very easy deal to do. So the difficulty we're going to have is, yes, there's 2 weeks left, but the most important factor is, what money do we have? So when it comes to Hjulmand, obviously this is a player. I just think, in my opinion, people are talking about Adam Wharton. How do you get him out of Palace when they haven't even sold Eze and Guehi yet? Are they going to sell their 3 best players in the last 2 weeks of a window when they've just started the season quite well with a draw at Chelsea? I don't think Wharton happens. Never say never. I look at Hjulmand and I go, okay, Ruben Amorim wanted Baleba. Maybe he was an opportunistic signing with all the traits that Amorim wanted. But it's like, you know, with all due respect, I'm trying to think about, you know, Kate Winslet in the Titanic. I mean, I don't want to talk about this bitch. Not Kate Winslet, the person in, what's her name? What's the name of the girl in the Titanic? Rose, or bitch, I call her. Anyway, I mean, she's a bitch because she could have got him on the door. You know, that's, I'm never, no one's ever going to defeat me on that. Anyway, Rose on the Titanic, it sinks. If you haven't figured that out, it's not a spoiler, you're an idiot. It sinks. She gets on the door, doesn't let him on, pretends that there's no room, and then pretends to fall asleep so that she doesn't have to look at him dying from the freezing, right? She then is getting on her nerves because he's dead and frozen on the door, so she pushes him off and pretends that she's bothered. But she did like him, right? He's gone now. She's still, I think she's about 19. She lands in New York. starts singing Concrete Jungle, Where Dreams Are Made Of, and then for the next few years, I think she gets knocked up and married and has a great life because she's found her Belabor alternative. So for Man United, we've got to be ruthless. We've got to be like Rose from the Titanic. You know, if Jack is Belabor and it's off, you can't just go, well, that was all I wanted. You know, you still want to get out there and have a good time, and you've got to find an alternative. And I think in the world of alternatives, because let's be clear, Belabor is not going to happen. It's too expensive now or next summer, apparently. I think in the world of alternatives, Hjulmand isn't Belabor, but he is a very, very good midfielder who is Champions League proven, who has played for Amorim in this system, and is going to be easily half the price. I think that's the deal you go and do. So I think he's the most likely at the moment. And I think he's the most logical at the moment. And people talk about risk, and I think he's the least risk. And I'm very intrigued by the Simon Stone update at the weekend, where people close to him saying that, you know, he's looking for a move. All I'm getting is that Porto are unlikely to sell 2 players in one summer. But, you know, every deal is difficult. And also, we've got a very good relationship with Sporting. And also, Amorim hasn't gone back to Sporting and decimated them. He hasn't took one player. And to those people who say, well, it didn't work for Ten Hag, it worked for Jose taking players that he had at Porto. And Ten Hag didn't take the right players from Ajax, if we're being honest. And even then, Martinez has been a good signing. So I just think with 2 weeks left in the window, Hjulmand's the one to keep an eye on today. I don't believe Wharton. I mean, I heard, was it Rio talking again? Self-proclaimed director of football. What did he say? We've been talking about Belabor. He's been the hot topic for the last month or so. But before that, Wharton was one of the guys I was saying, oh, God. He really does think that he produces. I think he thinks he's one of the world's best scouts of football. He was talking about Belabor. He was talking about Wharton. I've literally heard most of our fan base talk about Wharton for about 18 months. And I've heard most of you lot talking about Belabor since last autumn. So anyway, by the by, Rio apparently scouted Wharton. He's the nearest to Carrick type, who's a controller who can play, who plays forward from that deeper position. He can be an 8 if you need him to be, and can run at times if need to be. But he's more of a conductor and can control things. I watched him a couple of games last season against teams like Man City and Liverpool, and he looks unfazed. He looks ready for a big occasion. He enjoys the pressure, and he can play under pressure. I think he's a fantastic footballer. So Rio's moved on from Belabor already to Wharton. I like Wharton. I do like Wharton, but I don't think we're going to do that deal. I think he will stay at Palace for another year and open up the options. And if I was his agent, I'd say I wouldn't really be pushing for Man United in the last 2 weeks, because you've had a really, really good season at Palace. The Euros are coming up. The World Cup's coming up. And I think next summer you can take your pick, and you might even be on the. I've actually heard he's on the radar of Real Madrid as well. So I don't know. Look, who I would take between Wharton and Hjulmand at this moment in time, I don't river dance. I don't care. I think it's by the by, but they'd be both fantastic, and you've got to dare to dream. But I think Hjulmand is probably the one that makes the most sense now, considering we will need another midfielder next summer. So, you know, like with Šeško, we're looking at him and we're going, he's our striker, and he's our striker for the next 5 years. And no, we're not going to buy another big striker. I think with the midfield, we need one now, and we need one next year, because Bruno, I think, goes to Saudi. Casemiro walks off to earn his money in Saudi or the MLS, and we're 2 midfielders down. So we need one now, and we need one in the summer. And I think that's another reason why I'm convinced by the update yesterday afternoon, that we will get a goalkeeper and a midfielder, and we are trying to get a goalkeeper and a midfielder, because otherwise we're going to have to buy 2 midfielders next summer. And it's very rare that you can rebuild a whole midfield in one summer. So logically, yeah. Let me just grab some of your points here, because I feel I've been talking for a while, and we've got 18,000 watching. Thank you very much. Just on the goalkeeper thing, I know some of you might have been a little bit late. Encouragingly, look, I accept people in The Athletic are saying unlikely to buy a goalkeeper. You got a huge update from one of the best sources in Argentina saying that Amorim wanted Martinez and Martinez wants Man United, but the board won't back Amorim. That needs speaking about, because that source is really good. And we know that we approached Villa. We haven't got a goalkeeper. What the hell are the club doing if they're not backing a manager who wants a goalkeeper? I mean, I would be more blunt than that. Amorim has wanted a goalkeeper since March. They haven't got him a goalkeeper, and we've just lost our opening game of the season because the board haven't backed the manager. There is no goalkeeper in the Premier League that is going to make that mistake. It was so bad. It was so bad. I mean, I was listening to the analysis of the goal yesterday, and it was absolutely spot on. From a technical point of view, he's got no awareness of Saliba. He's flat-footed when the ball's in the air. He does need to be on his toes. He does need to be scanning. And he does need to be making sure that as that ball's trajectory is in the air, he gets it at its highest point with a punch. He gets it completely wrong and looks an absolute prat. As I said, I've seen butterflies be more commanding. So I think that Amorim wants a goalkeeper. The board have not given him a goalkeeper. And now we're in a position whereby we have lost our opening game. So Costa is apparently available for 20 million euros plus add-ons, and Emi Martinez wants to come to United. So there's two options there, as well as Lemens. There's no excuse. And if they don't bring a goalkeeper in, they're not backing the manager. Matthew H says, forget I'm a believer, I'm a Wharf. Who does Jack, the guy pushed in the water, portray? Says Spin. Believer, left in the cold. Yeah, you know, he's put his cards on the table. He's expressed his love for Rose, and basically she shafted him, and he's in the cold. Yeah. I'm always wary of reports from the club and club journalists. We've seen in the past that it's in both their interests to keep fans speculating. United in the news is currency for both parties, says Patrick. And that's why I think we've been in this very fortuitous position this summer where we've been, some would say, unusually positive based upon the information that we've had. And as I said, I think most people over the last 24 hours would be taking these reports and being quite negative that there's not going to be any more signings. But as I said, as per our update yesterday afternoon, Man United, Amorim, Wilcox, Barada are still very much in the market for a goalkeeper and a midfielder. I think there's no point saying it's not going to be difficult because there's only 2 weeks left and God knows what the budget is, but we are. And I believe we will do business. I just think that the brief is, well, you can take your pick. Man United aren't going to make any signings, and then in 2 days' time we do. You know, what's the best way to make people excited and happy? Lower the expectations. Get to bed. You're not staying up to watch films on Christmas Eve, and you're not getting any presents. Go to bed. Miserable, upset. My life's rubbish. Wake up in the morning. Look at what I've bought you. Everything you wanted. You're even more appreciative. That is a level of abuse. Don't do that to your kids or your wife or your husband, because ultimately it's emotional abuse. But in football, it's fine. Apparently in football, it's fine to lower your fans' expectations for a big bounce of positivity. City buying Nipan and lending him straight out, also bringing Savinho in last year, selling him after one season. What are United doing, says Marlow. As Lazy says, I just want the Burnley match to start so we can see if the intensity we showed against Arsenal was a one-time thing or the beginning of something, says Slazy. We have got Fulham in between. So I know you're talking about Burnley. That's game 3. Fulham at the weekend. Collins says, let's get Martinez now. If possible, we get Lemens next summer when Onana leaves. Lemens has nothing useful to learn from Onana if he comes in anyway. Would it make sense to sell Mainu to get a 6, says Tech? I don't want Mainu to go anywhere. I'm obviously very disappointed that he's just not getting any minutes. And I think that's a conversation we can have. It's not transfer related, but we could have a conversation about Mainu in more depth on the 8 o'clock show, because I think it's a great conversation. But, you know, I don't want him anywhere but Man United. But you know, he can't get into the worst Man United side in Premier League history last year, and he's not getting minutes again. But it's hard to see where he... The thing with Mainu is, very, very quickly, and we can revisit it, where does he start? Like, where does he start? Would it make sense to sell Mainoo, says Tech? With achievable quality options around, it would be a crime not to get a goalkeeper. This is spot on, Ian. It's not an excuse. There is so many options around. Look at the striker market. We missed out on 4 or 5 targets and still got a good one. And the same thing can be happening with the goalkeeper. Nix, thank you for joining the members club and getting your badge in. Really appreciate that. Like Schofield says, if we only have 55 million left, why aren't our scouts finding some steals abroad? Sally says, Mark, before we start shopping for new players, we need to hold a 2-week clearance sale on the Prats we've already got at Man United. Frank says, well, I just think on the sales very, very quickly, I have nothing to add. I mean, obviously, I've heard the story. We spoke about it last night about Rasmus and Napoli. Nobody wants Onana. Sancho doesn't want to go anywhere. Anthony only wants to go to Betis. Garnacho wants to drive the price down at United to go to Chelsea. We've wasted a hell of a lot of time on nothing. And even if Rasmus does go to Napoli, it's a loan fee. You would get about 5 million quid. So it just shows you, like, you've got Liverpool selling players that don't even get in their first team for 20 mil. And Man United are loaning first team players from last year for 5 million and, you know, paying half the wages for Anthony again. It's absolutely fundamentally awful. Can you do a head-to-head with all 4 goalkeepers? Martinez, Costa, Donnarumma and Arna. Would like to see the comparison. Remind me, Frank. I will do that on the evening show. Absolutely. John United says, I think the goalkeeper in mid-market is strong with plenty of choices, but we've got to act now. Amorim couldn't convince, but Binder did Sunday, says Steve. Another chance for me to support the United stand while also saying once again, Hjulmand will be a Danish one-man McFred. No to Hjulmand, says Woozy. Okay. Gary Neville was convinced we would get a keeper. Does he know something, says Light Schofield? Well, I mean, look, I don't know because I don't speak to Gary Neville, but maybe Gary Neville is getting information that's similar to the one that we got yesterday, that all this talk of United not doing business, we will. I mean, I don't like saying we will because that'll come back, but there's people out there saying unlikely and not going to happen. I don't agree with it. And most of the media saying unlikely and not going to happen. And I don't agree with it. We should take a punt on a young championship midfielder called Charles, says Angling for More. Amorim is a kid on Christmas, asked for a PS controller and a headset, and on the big day he only got a PS. Then he gets shouted at for needing the controller, says Aidan. And does Costa being 6'1" not worry anyone, says William? I think if he was 5'8", it would worry me. I think if you're over 6 foot as a goalkeeper, he'd be fine. I think same team Sunday, but Ahmad for Delo, says Robert McCormack. He loves to get in there early, doesn't he, Robert? You know, first man at the bar, always sat at the front at the United stand shows, and he's doing the team news for Sunday already. You were right last week, to be fair. I'd like to see Šeško starting, to be honest. I mean, I don't. Ten Hag's the first one I remember doing it, but I don't like this. I've got a new signing and I'm not going to start them. Ten Hag always did it. Remember when we got Casemiro and we went away to Southampton, he starts McTominay. It's like, if you do that, you're basically waiting for a bad performance from somebody to bring the good player in. Like, I just think get him in at ASAP. And look at Gyökeres. He didn't play particularly well for Arsenal, but he's got an hour under his belt in the Premier League that will do him the world of good. Shawnee, welcome to the Members Club. I think so. I love Belabor, but you can change this United midfield for less. If you get Kamara, for example, in a year's time, you could have someone who's just as highly regarded. Things move quickly in football, says James. Mate, I completely agree with you that the price for Belabor at £100 million is extortionate. But my issue is, if I am the CEO or the head of development or the owner or the manager or the head scout at Man United, I'm calling a meeting before we brief Ornstein saying, we're never getting him for less than 100 million. So do we really want to waste 2 weeks on this publicly? Whether you agree with the price or not, you were never not going to pay that price. And that's where I think we went wrong. If we can get Edison from City for a reasonable price, would you do it? No, I don't rate Edison. Harry, I've never rated Edison. I think he's one of the most overrated top goalkeepers in the world ever. I think he's decent, but his reputation, it's a bit like Ruben Diaz. They're decent, but they're not as good as people make out, because simply, especially in the case of Edison, you're playing for a team that has less shots against them than anybody else. So you put Edison in goal for Everton, and suddenly he's got to deal with three times the amounts of shots per game. I think he gets exposed. I think he's a decent goalkeeper with good distribution, but I don't think, he ain't Van der Sar. He ain't Manuel Neuer. He's not Courtois. He's not Alisson. He's decent, but I don't rate Edison that much, Harry, to be honest with you. Forget I'm a believer. I've done that one from Matthew H. Thank you. Okay, let me just whiz back here. Please do smash a like on the video. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I just want to quickly have a quick look. Somebody just said something and I want to make sure. Oh yeah, I mean, the source is really crap. Le Seville Foot are saying that Manchester United are willing to offer 22 to 26 million for Agoumé at Sevilla, rather than go to his release clause of 35 million. I mean, look, I mentioned him, didn't I? Kamara, Agoumé, Guerra, Stiller, Hjulmand, Wharton, and the lad from Bilbao. There's 6, 7 alternatives. I don't know whether any of them are good alternatives. I mean, I guarantee you they're not all quick. They're not all dribblers. They're not all carriers of the ball like Belabor. But then, out of those 6, there's got to be somebody that adds something to a midfield that, let's be honest, has got a number 10 in it, a guy who's basically close to retirement in it, a guy in Manu that we never see, and a guy in Agate whose confidence is on is on the floor. So and also we've let Collier go. So surely out of one of those there is somebody. If this is it for the transfer, I wouldn't be surprised if Amorim starts using Mount as an 8. He's already hinted at that, Seth. And that's scary because to play as a number 8, you've got to run more. To play as a number 8, you've got to be physical. And the last thing you want from a guy that's barely played football in 2 years in their mid-20s is to ask them to make more physical challenges and run more. So I think that would be terrifying. RGS says, wouldn't we want Rasmus going on loan, getting game time and confidence? No point in him sitting around at United and being 3rd or 4th choice, further pushing his development back. Yeah, it's a great point. But I think that... but what I would say is I don't think the development benefits anybody other than himself. I think for United, this is about leading to a permanent move next summer anyway. So I don't think it's like development for the benefit of us. It's not like sending Obi out on loan to, Coventry City, which I think would be a great move for him, and playing regularly in the Championship. I think some of these loans, you're looking for a longer term deal. How can Doak and Amari go for 30 million, but Garnacho is worth 25 to 30 to Chelsea, says Odmar. Exactly. It's absolutely crazy, to be honest. Apparently Jamie Vardy has emerged as a target for Napoli now. Sancho spotted at Carrington yesterday. Apparently he left his PS5 controller in the dressing room. Douglas Luiz is apparently going to Nottingham Forest. Leeds are going to sign Okafor from AC Milan. Garnacho remains a priority to provide competition with Gittins as natural options on the left wing. Chelsea are in active talks with Man United in an effort to find a solution. There we go. I mean, effectively, he's going there as a backup to Gittins by the sound of it. More talk about Rasmus in Italy as well. Yeah, interesting. But look, I sit here in front of you, great people, and I'm glad we have the information that we got yesterday, because otherwise I think I see a lot of negativity and a lot of depression again in the transfer window. With 2 weeks to go, we need a midfielder and a goalkeeper, and the message from the client journalists of Man United is that it's unlikely. Thankfully, we have a different source closer to the training ground saying that Amorim, Wilcox, Barada are actively working to bring a goalkeeper and a midfielder in. There's still time for those things to happen. I personally also will add an opinion here as well. I don't buy the bullshit that Onana wasn't match fit for Sunday. And I know Onana is clearly giving Romano information in some way, shape or form, because we've had 2 updates from Fabrizio since that dropping that Onana understands it and feels that it's to do with fitness. Also, Onana was linked to Inter Milan last night, and Fabrizio spoke about it and said there's nothing in that. So I think that there's been a bit of PR from Onana's side that he wasn't dropped and he understands why he wasn't used because he's only just coming back from injury. He was, I know, 100% capable of being in that match day squad and being on the bench. So I think I am making a few assumptions, Bobby, but you're allowed to make opinions. I tell you what I know, I tell you what's sourced, and I tell you what's in the news. This is opinion. Fabrizio has spoken a couple of times since Onana's been dropped, and it comes across if it's coming from Onana's side. The first one was Onana understood why he wasn't in the team and feels that it's to do with fitness. I don't think it was, because he could have been on the bench. Didn't need to be out of the squad altogether. Similarly, Rasmus could have been on the bench. Didn't need to be out of the squad altogether. I think we all know to Rasmus that's a message that you're not going to get many minutes, so you might want to go somewhere else while the window's open. And I think, although it's a harder pull because you haven't got someone like Sesko up front, I mean, the equivalent to Onana would be to have Donnarumma in goal. You put Binder in goal, he underperforms, but I think there was a message there that I don't want you to be my goalkeeper. Please go. So I don't buy, just because it's coming in from Fabrizio, from probably Onana's side, that he understood why he was dropped because of fitness. Bullshit. He could have been on the bench if it was fitness. So I think people maybe haven't picked up on it, but like Garnacho Sancho not being allowed to be in training, I think Amorim may have just tried a little bit of a message there that this is not the goalkeeper I want. And it could be to Onana and it could be to the club as well, especially if it's true about that story that he doesn't, he wants Amorim. He wants Martinez and Martinez wants him. It cost us 3 points, but to be honest, I haven't heard anybody say if Onana was in goal, he'd have made that punch, because actually, I think he's probably one of the goalkeepers that would have made the same mistake. So I don't know. Maybe Onana will be back in goal for Fulham. I'm not convinced. I think Amorim might be sending a message that Onana's not his goalkeeper, which is what we reported back in March. We'll see. George has been told to stop smoking crack. I haven't seen George's comment, but let me have a quick look. How is Bruno in Team of the Week? Oh, no, not like that. I don't know what Team of the Week it is, but some people thought Bruno played really well on Sunday. The best thing I heard in the summer was somebody said Bruno's our best player and worst player. And that's got levels, because it's so true. I think Bruno's our best player, but I think he's being played out of position. And I think sometimes people will go, Bruno was absolutely shit, because people are over the top. And sometimes people say Bruno's the best player on the pitch because people are over the top. He covered more distance than anybody. His heat map was every position on the pitch, so you can't argue with that. But disciplined, probably not. He's not a midfielder. The pass he played into Mbeumo, if Mbeumo had been fit, would have been a great assist. I think I give Bruno a 6.5. I think he was slightly above average. I wouldn't have said Team of the Week. And if Bruno was in Team of the Week, then Dorgu, De Ligt and Cunha would have to be in it. But I don't think he was terrible. I thought he was okay. But as I said, my problem is I just don't think it's his best position. Costa's too small. We need a big keeper, says Khan. Shawnee Williams says, I feel we regret getting rid of Henderson. Well, you make a valid point, but the biggest regret was getting rid of De Gea, surely. I mean, David De Gea, let me just break this down. David De Gea won the Golden Glove. He had more clean sheets than anybody in the Premier League. We let him go for free and spent £50 million on Onana. We've done some bad deals. Sancho, Alexis Sanchez, the list goes on. But that's most clean sheets in the Premier League, multiple Player of the Year awards, in his early 30s, one of the best shot stoppers in the world. Yeah, we'll give you a new contract. He's on holiday. Clear his desk. Get rid of him. 50 million on Onana. That isn't a regret. That, my friend, is a crime. people say we only turn up against big teams, but again, just for me, what we see against Arsenal is not just turning up against the big six. It's a team progress. I saw a team focus. Seth, I cannot wait for the Fulham game. Cannot wait for the Fulham game. I think it's just everybody I speak to, non-United fans, are like, I was quite impressed with United at the weekend, and that's your best verification. And all I keep saying is, I think every United fan is happy with the performance, but we lost. It's an irrelevant performance if we don't beat Fulham. And if we beat Fulham and Burnley, it's a really good performance that led to those results. So it all comes down to what we do against Fulham. Because if we lose or draw against Fulham or we play bad, it means nothing. If we go and beat Fulham 3 or 4-0, means everything. So I'm just excited about Fulham. Right, make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe. Brilliant show this morning. Nice to be led on info that's positivity instead of following the mainstream as well, which is good. I'm still confident on a goalkeeper and a midfielder, and more I'm still starting to think about Martinez. I know it's a conspiracy theory, but I am, and I still think Hjulmand's a possibility as well. So we'll have to wait and see. I'm on the Football Terrace with Terry with hot takes. I love this show. Every Tuesday at 11 o'clock. Basically clips from the weekend. I don't know what they are. Terry plays them out and I react to them with him. So hopefully we'll have some right prats from the mainstream to react, maybe Ref Watch or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if that's in there. So tune in for that. I'm just going to grab a quick coffee and then we'll be ready to go on that. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I'll see you over there in a minute. We're back at 2 o'clock. And of course, the best show on YouTube, the 8 o'clock. Also, I can't say too much, but from a community point of view, if you like That's Football as well, something we're working on at the moment is the biggest thing we've ever done. It's so exciting. It's so exciting. And I can't even hint it because I don't think you'll get it. But I was always a big, well, you might get it if I say that. It's just really exciting. I just can't wait for it. And it's not quite there yet, but I think it's going to happen. And as soon as I know it's happening, I will tell you about it. It'd be great for the United stand as well. But yeah, it's really good. Really, really excited. I will see you over on the Football Terrace at 11 o'clock. Love hot takes. And obviously we've got the 2 o'clock show, 8 o'clock show, and exciting news coming in the next sort of 24, 48 hours for the community as well. I'll speak to you in a bit. Take care.